Hey, welcome to the Parents and Kids live stream. I'm so glad you could join us today. Today, we're going to be talking about something very important about children and developmental health. And if you've not heard the phrase developmental health, listen on because you're going to find out why it's a really big deal. And this is an important topic. And so I'm asking all of our viewers, please share this stream with other people. We're going to be highlighting some valuable resources for Mississippi families, and we want to get this information out far and wide. With me today are two guests. I have first Dr. Susan Buttross. Welcome.
Thank you.
She's a developmental behavioral pediatrician at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. And you're also a spokesperson for the American Academy of Pediatrics. And then you're the medical director of the Center for the Advancement of Youth and a professor of pediatrics at UMMC.
That's
So
right.
you sound rather busy, and we thank you for your time today.
Thank you. It's a delight to be here.
Well, viewers, Dr. Buttross is here to talk about the project, Child Health and Development Project. That's the name of it. And the Child Health and Development Project, which I think is more commonly known as Mississippi Thrive, is on a mission to improve children's developmental health for children of the state from birth through age 5. And this is really important because this will improve school readiness and basically increase the success of our children. And as we all believe, children are the state's most valuable resource. I also have with me Mrs. Heather Martin. And Heather, you're from Houston, Mississippi.
Yes.
So we're live streaming this, and so we're here from three different locations. And so the technology is, as you know, technology. So viewers, bear with us. Heather's a statewide Vroom coordinator for Mississippi, and she's spent the past 16 years doing early childhood education in Northeast Mississippi. And now you join the Child Health and Development Project, and you're the statewide coordinator of the initiative called Vroom. And that teaches parents to turn shared moments into brain building moments. And that sounds critically important. And you're going to tell us a lot about that shortly. Okay, so for those just joining us, I have Dr. Susan Buttross and I have Heather Martin, and we're talking about childhood development. And that's a new way of looking at children's health. And I've got Dr. Buttross, I'm going to start with you first. We talked about Mississippi Thrive. Can you just give me an overview of this project?
Yes. Mississippi Thrive's overall goal is to improve the developmental and behavioral health for children in Mississippi. There's one area that Mississippi, unfortunately, has not been thriving in, and that's early childhood. We come at the bottom of many of the parameters that tell us that children are in a great state of wellness and are prepared for the future. And so our goal, the overall goal, is to help get our children healthy, ready to learn, and ready for school by the time they're in kindergarten. So to do that, you have to, if there are any delays, developmental delays that a child might have, we want to discover them early. And by delays, let me just explain that a little bit. There are certain markers that that we measure in a child's early development. When they start babbling, when they say their first words, when they crawl, when they stand, when they walk, and all of that. Those are our markers that we use. And there's a broad range of what's normal. But when a child falls outside the realm of normal, it's really important for us to see what's going on, see what we can do to help. Do they need therapy? Are they perhaps sick? Is there something else going on? How can we help them move along so that we can hopefully, in most cases, correct a developmental delay so that by the time they enter kindergarten, they're not delayed in speech or fine motor, writing skills or the like.
And I think we've heard over and over that the earlier you start intervention, the better.
Absolutely. Something that we talk about a lot in our Mississippi Thrive project is that the brain is rapidly changing in the first few years of life. And in fact, by age 3, the brain weight size triples. So there are a million new connections going on in the brain every second in the first year of life. So there's just rapid changing. And so anything we can do to enhance that is better.
And I think some people may operate under the fallacy of it's okay to wait till kindergarten. When they get there, they're going to get evaluated and they'll get tracked into the right program. And they've lost all that brain development time.
It's to me a travesty to wait until
Mhm.
kindergarten. Early development starts in utero while the baby's growing inside mom. And so, to me, every day is precious for
Mhm.
these young children. And, it's never, in my mind, too late. But the earlier, like you said, the better off the child will be, and the more likely it is to change. Just think about it as a habit. If you have a habit that goes on for a really long time, it's really hard to break. But if
Yes.
you start kind of a bad habit early on and you cut into it or break it early on, it's going to be a lot easier.
I think that's a really good analogy. And we're going to talk a lot more specifically about this in just a minute. But we're live streaming simply because we're doing our social distancing. And so let's talk briefly about families in this unique situation. I think there's extra stress amongst families now. Address that, and then let's segue and talk about summer coming up and what do parents do when everything's shut down.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I have yet to talk to a mother of young children or even teenage children who is not a bit stressed and overwhelmed at what's going on. I mean,
Mhm.
one of my coworkers, a nurse practitioner, said, "I don't know how the heck I'm supposed to do all of this. I'm the mother, the nurturer, the house cleaner, the full-time nurse practitioner still, and the teacher, and the cook. So how am I supposed to do all this and do it well?" And my answer back is give yourself a break, cut yourself some slack.
Mhm.
There is no way to do all of that perfectly. So what you have to do is set your priorities, decide what's going to come first, what's going to come second, and then decide also that no matter what you do, it won't be perfect. Um, uh, we are lucky enough as we are now safer at home. And so many of the things that we are used to occupying our children, camps, or baseball's a big thing in Mississippi in the spring right now, or soccer. All those things have been canceled, or if they're coming back very, very slowly.
Yes.
And so we do have to figure out what to do to keep our kids going while all that's not there, plus the childcare situation. So, with all that, just I'm laying out all the stuff that's
This
tough.
is our reality right now.
This is the tough part. But there are things we can do, like keeping in mind in our lucky electronic age, most of us have connectivity, at least with a smartphone. And so to remember that there are ways to connect your child to their friends, to their grandparents, to
Mhm.
their other relatives that they're used to seeing regularly. So do it. Use Zoom, use Facebook, use FaceTime, Skype, do whatever. But all of that is very, very important to keep kids connected. And the other thing it does, and I know my children have used me to help them with this, is I can commit to an hour or two of FaceTime or whatever we do. We do Zoom a lot. Um, and I commit to that. So mom can go off or dad can go off and do something while I'm working on schoolwork. And we do it. They hold their book up to me and show me what they're working on, or take a picture of it and send it to me so we can talk about it. So
Mhm.
those kinds of things allow other people to help even at a distance. It's doable. The other thing is, I think that, so especially our children think now they're on vacation when you're trying to complete schoolwork. That's been really tough.
Yeah.
So, to try to set up a schedule that's pretty firm. Most children find security in schedules. Everybody is a little bit anxious right now. And
Hmm.
so to keep in mind, the best thing I know I can do for myself is to set things out, know what to expect next. That's what kids need to hear. What's going to happen next? So in the morning, do for a young child, do a picture chart. For an older child, you can do a word chart or whatever, and just say, this is the way the schedule's set. You have screen time this much time. You have outdoor play this much time,
Hmm.
and so on, so that they know. And you have schoolwork or reading time or whatever you're doing. Setting that schedule is really a great thing. This is also, I'll keep going for a minute.
Please do.
This is also a really, really good time to look at the different learning styles of your children. Unfortunately, many of our schools still say children need to sit still to learn. There's a lot of research out there that has shown that children do better. Some, not all, but some children really do better with movement
Hmm.
while they're learning. So if your child wants to stand up and read, let them stand up or twirl around and read at the same time. That's okay. One of my granddaughters, I could tell she was getting a little fidgety while we were working on things. And I said, okay, time for jumping jacks. And we stopped. We did 10 jumping jacks, laughed about it because I was doing them badly. And then we got back to work. So to be creative and try to have fun while you're
Hmm.
working on all these different pieces is a really good thing.
Well, I like what you said. You said parents need to prioritize, give up on perfection. If you can't be super parent in normal times, you're not going to be super parent during COVID times. And then I think even for my employees that work from home on a regular basis, we really say schedules make them more productive. And you're talking about the same thing. So these are really good tips. And I want to say once again, viewers, if you're watching this, please share this link with others because we're going to be going into resources shortly, but this is great information. Talk now about behavioral changes parents might observe in their kids during these times.
Oh, I think everybody is experiencing mostly anxiety, if not some depression with things. And, one thing I haven't mentioned is there's some financial stress going on in many, many families. Almost everyone has experienced something that's been a financial hit to them. So, kids pick up on that no matter how good you try to be about only talking about the serious things around the adults. Kids hear stuff, their ears are better than you know, and they also pick up on parents' mood, facial expressions, all of that.
Yeah.
Plus it's kind of hard to miss out on the what's going on in the world when everybody's talking about COVID-19 right now and the number of people dying. And so to think about that. If you are experiencing stress, then clearly your child is. And that's okay because it's normal. But there are a few things that we need to look for. Now, um, and I have personal and professional experience in all of these things as I talk about them. Sleep problems, disruptive sleep, is one of the biggest things that we've seen. Children having trouble going to sleep, having trouble waking up in the middle of the night with bad dreams or nightmares. And then children wanting to sleep too late in the morning and falling off the schedule. Um, so, sleep deprivation, we know, is one of the worst things for behavioral issues. So, getting a handle on sleep. And I can talk specifically about that in a minute, but I want to go on about some of the other behaviors that may appear with lack of sleep, with anxiety. Often, children, and with a little sadness, often children will act angry, just mad at everybody.
Mm.
In the child behavior world, we remind everybody that often mad means sad. Mad is sad. So that means that we're just not feeling good inside. So to make sure that you allow the child to talk about it. I
Mhm.
can see you're feeling bad. I can see that you look angry or you have a sad face. Tell me what's going on. Let's talk a little bit about it. And they may say, I'm mad that I can't go see Johnny.
Yeah.
And say, I know it's hard. Do you want to call Johnny? To try to make sure that you address things individually.
Mhm.
Um, I had a recent incident actually, and this is more on a personal basis where there was some behavioral acting out with some pretty specific behavior that kept happening over and over, even though the child's bright and knew that it was wrong, the behavior continued to happen. When we looked into that, it seemed that it was anxiety. Sometimes adults and children, when they feel a lot of anxiety, sometimes doing another behavior that's almost a distractor to that anxiety is the only thing that relieves the anxiety. So it might not be a good behavior, right?
Mhm.
So what you do is to try to address that you're feeling anxious and but this behavior is not a good one. It's not a good way to cope with that. So let's come up with another behavior. And it
Mhm.
may be that you and I are going to go outside and skip around the house, or you're going to go jump on that trampoline that has all the safe sides, of course,
Yes.
or or some other release for the anxiety that is not destructive,
Mhm.
perhaps.
And that could be drawing for some kids.
Journaling,
Yeah.
yes, singing a song,
Yeah.
playing an instrument.
Yeah.
It could be so many different things, but to remind your child that you can do these things, and I'm going to help you know when to do them. So again, in the behavior world, when you're not sure what's going on, the art of observation is wonderful. So to make yourself sort of observe what's going on. Often, when there's a bad behavior, a negative behavior, there's an antecedent. There's something that happened
Mhm.
right before that. And so to make yourself look for that and then be able to act or deter the behavior before it ever happens is another good technique.
Those are some really good tips. And I think this same advice can also be for us adults as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure some of us are being anxious and then taking it out on the person we love the most. And, it's we're all stressed, as you said. Now, I promised some people at the top of the broadcast that we were going to talk about some great resources. I
Yes.
know at Parents and Kids, we've been going like crazy trying to gather up great resources, and you are one of our favorite resources. So I want you to talk about starting with your website, particularly the Parents and Families page. Tell us some of the resources that are there that parents can go to on their smartphones or their tablets or their computers.
Yeah. The website is Mississippi Thrive, and when you go to it, if you will type Mississippi all the way out, don't put our abbreviation because it'll take you to another good website, but not ours, and nothing about children. So MississippiThrive.com. And on that website, under parents and families, there are some, I think, awesome resources because, like parents and kids, it has done an awesome job, and you too are one of our favorite resources. We've tried to gather some of the early child health and development resources that are out there. One of them is called Help Me Grow. And I really love that resource. It's a national resource that is particularly focused upon the area of early discovery of developmental needs and linkage to good services. So
Mhm.
you want to, we have a link to that. It's a very excellent one. Another one is called the CDC Learn the Signs Act Early. That is a great website with some free resources, as is Help Me Grow, free resources to look at. One thing I forgot to say on our uh, parents and families site, there is a resource map, and it's an interactive resource map. So
Oh,
if you get on your computer and you go to that resource map and hover over your area with your cursor, it will show you the different areas of resources from pediatricians to allied health professionals like speech therapy, behavioral therapy, occupational therapy, anything you might need. And we would love, by the way, to hear from any of you parents if there's another resource that we don't have down. We're forever adding to it and would love to know that. So
okay.
the Help Me Grow resource and the CDC Learn the Signs Act Early, we have some links to other areas
Okay.
also.
And you've got a COVID-19 resources.
Yes, we have. Yes, we do. Oh, and the American Academy of Pediatrics,
Okay.
another great resource, has a lot of COVID 19 resources out there that parents can link to. It has things about anxiety and depression. There's also, I'll just mention this as we're talking through, one area that we all know as stress goes up in the home, often homes that are having difficulty dealing with stress, there's an increase in incidents of child mistreatment, um,
Mhm.
domestic violence. So there also the Academy of Pediatrics has recognized that, and they have some pretty awesome pages on that. And if you don't mind, Gretchen, I'm going to mention here that on MPB, Mississippi Public Broadcasting, next week on Tuesday at 11, we'll be doing a show about the added stress in homes and domestic violence and child abuse increase. So I know that's a downer, but I just want to mention it. We know the stress out there is increasing, the likelihood of that happening.
And we need to be realistic, and we definitely want to get word out about your resources. Go ahead and mention the web address again. It's
MississippiThrive.com.
and
Uh,
it's not a .org, it's a .com.
right. It's right. Heather, I'm sorry. Correct me. Yes.
Okay,
MississippiThrive.com. When you ask that, it's like, uh-oh.
that's okay.
Um,
And we don't spell Mississippi completely out.
spell
So
it completely out.
MississippiThrive.com. Okay, we
And
want to make
it'll,
sure all the viewers have that. That's important.
thank
Um,
you so much.
and then we're going to segue quickly now to Heather. Introduce Vroom and what Heather's doing.
Well, Vroom is one of my favorite resources, and we are lucky enough to have Heather Martin as a Vroom coordinator. Vroom was, and I'll let Heather tell a little more about this, but Vroom was established by the Bezos Foundation, which is the Amazon family. Jackie is the mother of Jeff Bezos, and she wanted to do something great for kids and how to help with brain growth. And that's what Vroom is. So I'll hand it over to Heather to talk about that.
Okay. Welcome, Heather. You've been waiting patiently to be the star of our show. And viewers, I want to let you know we're talking to Dr. Susan Buttross and also Heather Martin, and we're talking about developmental growth in children, milestones to look for, ways to encourage it. It's just a new way of looking at children's health that's a little bit different from their fever and their sore throats. So I'm really excited about this. So Heather, tell us more about exactly what is Vroom.
Just as Dr. Buttress had said, it is a global program of the Bezos Family Foundation. Vroom really empowers parents to know that they already have what it takes to help their child with brain development. And so Vroom has science based, absolutely free tips and activities for parents. And so it's a great way to help your child as they start out with life, but also to lay a foundation for the future.
Okay, so let me be clear on this. Vroom isn't something you put your child in front of. Vroom is
No.
something that educates the parents on how to interact with the child.
Vroom is all about relationships and the connection between caregivers and caring adults in a child's life.
And that's the foundation of a healthy life. So it sounds like an amazing thing. Um, what makes Vroom such a great resources for times like we're in right now?
Well, just as y'all have talked about, I'm one of those moms that's trying to work from home and be mom and all the stress and things that go along with that. But I think what really makes Vroom stand out is that when life gets busy and crazy, Vroom stays simple. And Vroom is not a program where you have to go and buy a lot of props and you don't have to have a Pinterest perfect area or anything like that. Vroom actually fits into a family's daily life. And so it fits into mealtime and bath time. If
Mhm.
you're a family, that eats and takes baths, you can do Vroom. If you're a family that has dirty laundry and dirty dishes, Vroom tips are even created around that. And so all of those things are not something that you have to rearrange your life around to be able to do Vroom tips. It fits right into what families are already doing, even in crazy times like this.
So this is just taking your everyday family activities and incorporating a little caregiver deliberate action to make that a meaningful interaction for the child.
That's exactly right. It is a layering on, and it's really incredible to see that in families and to see how that works into their daily lives. And we
Mhm.
have a video
Okay.
where you can really hear from parents and listen to the things they're saying and see if those are things that you can identify with through this video. That it really introduces Vroom and tells us more about exactly what it is.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to have that queued up and we will let our viewers watch it. It's going to be about 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's short. Hmm.
Okay. Well, let's wait for that. So, viewers, stick with us, and here comes a nice video.
Yes, and then I'm gonna hang up the jackets, okay? I'm really rushing all the time. I don't have enough time just to sit down with them.
Being a full-time mom and having a full-time job, it's not easy. I always worry, am I doing enough with my kids? Am I doing the important stuff that they need?
Can't imagine what is in here.
It feels really powerful.
You guys.
You already have all it takes.
Maybe I just didn't look at it that way because I always want better.
Do you put your feet in them?
No.
No? I know that I can do it.
Which one is rough?
This one.
It's amazing the little things that we do, we don't even realize we're teaching our kids.
You did it, Mom.
Yay! Good job.
You don't really think of brain development at that young of an age, when you're 3 months old.
No, it's you.
Well, that was a great video. I think we've all watched it numerous times, but for our viewers, Heather, talk a little bit about this.
I think the things that hit home with me the most as I heard the parents talk were, I just don't ever feel like I'm doing enough and I'm so busy. Those were two of the things that really hit home with me. And I love that video because it truly shows how important that connection is that we've already talked about
Mhm.
between caregivers and children. I've noticed in my own children at this time, one of the things that I have seen as their response to everything with COVID-19 is that they've become a little more clingy.
Mhm.
They want to be right there with mom all the time. And so we know that connection is so important. And that connection is what makes brain building moments with Vroom so powerful.
Well, tell me about the purpose for these brain building moments.
Well, to explain that, I kind of need to talk a little bit about the science first. And science is at the very heart of everything Vroom does. Vroom is inspired and brought about by the nation's leading neuroscientists, psychologists, child health development experts, and then everyday parents. And so all of those came together to create Vroom. And those brain building moments are research based activities that promote brain development.
Let me ask you a question about that, though. An infant grows at a seeming alarming rate very early on. Children grow; they're getting taller, they're getting bigger, they're getting stronger. Aren't their brains growing at the same pace?
Well, to begin with that,
Hmm.
we know that when a baby is born, their brains are not fully developed.
Okay.
And one of the words that I think, and Dr. Buttross has already said it, that I think about so much is that word million. A million. Um, During the first 5 years of life, from birth through the age of 5, a child's brain is making 1 million neural connections every second. And Dr. Buttress has already said that, but that really just hits home with me that happens every second. And so those connections are actually forming the foundation for all future learning.
Okay.
And so the incredible experts from Vroom have done research and they have used what is called a MEG machine. Now, the MEG machine has a very long word that I can't pronounce at the
Okay.
moment, but it's a MEG machine. And this machine, Dr. Patricia Cool says, looks like kind of like a hairdryer from Mars, is what it looks like. And so, what this machine actually does is, as young children are doing activities, this machine is actually watching those brain neural connections. And so, on the screen, those researchers are able to see those parts of the brain actually lighting up. And so they're able to try different activities and to see which activities promote more connections. And so some of the things they've learned through that is that the activities that are done with that caregiver are the activities that show the most neural connections happening. And
So,
so it's almost like whenever you see your child's eyes light up, their brain is lighting up at the same time.
so a child just sitting there is not popping these neural connections nearly so much as a child that's interacting with the caregiver or the environment. So I can't just put my kid in a car seat and look and look at the child and think this is going on. It takes interaction with the child and people and the environment to make these things happen. Am I following it?
You
That's
are.
exactly true.
Yeah.
And even recent research has shown that there's a difference between interacting with someone on a screen and interacting with someone that's in that room at that moment.
Interesting. So these are things parents need to know because I could think it would be easy to think, oh, I'm going to put my toddler in front of this Sesame Street show, which is highly regarded, and that may be doing something, but a caregiver in the room doing the same types of activities will be popping off a lot more neurons.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly how Vroom created their Vroom tips and their Vroom activities was by doing this research and seeing which activities promoted the most brain development and the most brain growth.
Okay, so talking about that, so what exactly is a brain building moment? And then tell me about what is a room tip because, well, just make sure we get it clear for our viewers.
Okay. Brain building moment and a Vroom tip are synonymous with each other. The
Okay.
brain building moments are broken down into 5 basic categories, and we call those the 5 brain building basics. And so every Vroom tip and every activity will fall under one of those 5 categories.
Okay.
And so the first one that we usually talk about is look. And so even with an infant, before they can tell you, I really like that toy, that baby doll, you can see what they're interested in because it's where their eyes are gazing at. You can tell what they're interested in by what they're looking at. And so being able to interact with them that way. One of the next brain building basics is called take turns. And take turns, when you think about that, really think about a tennis match and that ball going back and forth and back and forth.
Mhm.
An activity that a caregiver does with a child where they're doing something back and forth. It might be talking, it might be playing with a toy, but it's that back and forth interaction. We call that a lot of times serve and return interaction. And then the next one is chat. And so just like I said earlier, before a baby can use words, you can actually chat by making the sounds back and forth, mimicking sounds, and the babbling that's going on there. And then the next one is called stretch. I know the last few years as a teacher, we always had to include in our lesson plans what's called hot questions. And so stretch reminds me of those hot questions. It's a high order thinking. And so stretch is whenever you're doing an activity, but you take it deeper. So my example for that is asking a child, what's your favorite color? Well, if you're doing a stretch activity, then you're going to say, why is that your favorite color? Why do you like this color over this color? And so it's taking that activity even that much deeper.
Further, okay.
Yeah. And then the last one is follow. We know that there are great benefits from us actually following a child's lead in exploration and discovery as they learn. And so those are the 5 brain building basics. And every one of the Vroom tips or activities are going to fall into those categories.
Okay. Let's take a break and walk me through this. I'm a parent in the kitchen after dinner, and I need to load the dishwasher. And I have a 4-year-old. That's at the upper end of your birth to 5, but give me some examples of brain building moments right there that I may not be aware of.
Well, I mean, the first thing that pops in my mind is just figuring out where the dishes fit. And the large dishes have to go in one area and the smaller dishes have to go in another area, and then you have the silverware. And so letting them actually help you with that and letting them figure it out, letting them take that turn. And so that actually is one of our Vroom tips is deals with loading the dishwasher.
Okay. And I think all kids should know how to load dishwashers, just for the record. Let's see. Now, we talked a lot about it. How do parents access this information?
Okay, so a Vroom tip, before we go into that, a Vroom tip has specific parts. And so I want to make sure you understand about those specific parts because every Vroom tip is divided into 2 parts. There is the activity, and then there's what's called the brainy background. And so also on every Vroom tip, there is a suggested age. Now, that is just a suggestion. You may have a child developmentally who needs to go back a year, or you may have a child who needs to go forward a year, or they might just need to go backwards when you're doing a math tip. You know your children the best. But every tip is going to give you the activity, and I call that your what. That's what you're going to do with them. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, there is the brainy background, and I call that your why. It's why you're doing that activity. And it specifically tells parents what their child is gaining and what they are learning by that activity based on the science that Vroom provides. Wow. And so to access these tips, there are basic ways. The first is the app. And as you use the app, it can be downloaded through Apple or Android devices. Either way, it's a completely free app. Let me make sure I reiterate that. Everything that Vroom has is completely and totally free.
And if I'm searching for this app, I look up Vroom?
Yes.
Yes. V-R-O-O-M. Okay.
V-R-O-O-M, and look for an orange logo.
Orange logo, got it.
Orange logo, yes. And so some of my favorite things about the app is the Discover feature. We talked at the very beginning of all this of how busy families' lives are. And so what's amazing about the Discover feature is if the Vroom tip that doesn't pop up whenever you open the app, if that first Vroom tip there doesn't fit into what you're doing that day, you can go down to Discover And there are all different categories that you can pick that actually fits perfectly into what you're doing.
Oh, wow.
And so also in there, two of the resources for COVID-19 pop up. And so one of those is called Calm and Connect. And so those are tips specifically created for this time to help children have extra connection and to help them remain calm. So the app is probably what Vroom is most known for, but by no means is it the only way you can access Vroom.
Okay.
The other way you can access Vroom is by text. And so you can text Vroom to 48258. And when you text to that, they will begin sending you a Vroom tip each week by text. And so that's another way that we have found that a lot of people would prefer that if they're not really good with apps and those kind of things, they might prefer the text feature to be something that's a little bit easier. And then the last way is the website. Now, Dr. Buttross told you a little tip about getting to our website by writing Mississippi out. There is a little tip to Vroom as well. If you don't click in vroom.org, it's going to take you to used car salesman if you go to vroom.com. So always make sure with Vroom that you go to vroom.org. And so there's actually two ways to get tips there. First of all, you can log in and receive tips just like you do with the app. But also at the vroom.org website, when you go to tools and resources, there are PDF files of tips. So you can actually print out paper tips that you can use. So that way, if you're a teacher and you have families that can't access the internet, you can give them those paper resources as well.
Oh, that just sounds tremendous. And it sounds like something so many people could use. And I like the fact that the tips are part of everyday life.
Yes.
Most of us have to wash up dishes after dinner, and so you may as well make that into a brain building moment for a child. Now, I want to segue here to something you've done recently. Tell us about your book. I'm very excited about that. And you're making it
Um,
available for free.
I am making it available for free, and to help keep my two at home busy, they illustrated it. So my two daughters actually illustrated my book. The name of my book is One Day at a Time, because I truly feel like right now we are all just making it one day at a time. And it has an amazing foreword that Dr. Buttross has written for that. But just to show you kind of what the book looks like on each page, this page right here, you can see the illustration. And then at the top, you can see the story. This is actually a resource for both children and parents at the exact same time. And so at the top, the story text, children may identify to how the character is feeling and the emotions that they're going through throughout the day. And so this page is actually about the little girl named Hannah and her seeing people on TV that are wearing masks and not really understanding, is she going to have to start wearing masks and what does all this mean? And so that is incredible for children to be able to identify with that. But then what I also have included in the bottom is there are Vroom tips embedded into the story. And so certain elements in the story are Vroom activities, but the Vroom tips are specifically for parents. And so it shows how these Vroom tips really do fit into everyday activities. And I want parents to know there are a lot of Vroom tips throughout this one day, but there's no set expectation. Families can do more than one Vroom tip a day. They can do one a day. They can do one a week. It truly is about what fits into their day-to-day life.
I like that. It's not a program you have to buy with equipment and special mats and a strict schedule. It's just daily life, but using it to make special moments to not only bond with your kid, but build your child's brain. This just sounds like an amazing program. I am so thrilled to get to talk to you too. We've been going for a while. Susan, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, just first of all, I want to say that Heather and her daughters, the book is beautiful, and I think I would encourage everyone to read it. It says what I often say as we are talking about people centering back when they get anxious about something, is to take one day at a time, quit thinking about the past, stop worrying about the future. Let's take one day at a time, the here and now. And I love what the book says. So I hope people will access that. The other couple of things I want to just reiterate as Heather was talking is, everybody hears the if you don't use it, you lose it. It's truly true in the brain that as a child's brain is growing rapidly and setting down the pathways, you set the pathways down that are used. If they're not used, then that pathway goes away. It gets pruned off, just like you prune a shrub. So,
Wow, that's kind of terrifying.
yeah. Well, so just important to make sure. And then the last thing I'll say is about the difference in screen time, passive screen time, and the active interaction. Is think about if a baby is sitting in front of a TV and repeats something that somebody said on Sesame Street, like ball or giraffe or whatever, and nobody says, yes, giraffe, that's a giraffe, then it doesn't get reinforced. And so it's a reinforcer. Sesame Street's an awesome children's program, I think. I think it's better if a parent sits down and watches Sesame Street with a child.
That makes so much sense.
Don't always have time, though, but
I know. Heather, before we wrap up, is there anything you would like to add?
I think that's it. Also, in the book, if you download it, there are resources and information at the end of it as well. So if you didn't catch something today, for sure go to vroom.org and you can learn more about all these things.
Okay.
They also have a YouTube page, a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and they have actual playlists so you can see families doing these tips.
Okay, so basically, Vroom is ready to work with people no matter what platform they operate on. They're there,
Exactly.
products and information ready to go. And I know we got the PDF link up so parents can download your book for free and they can print it off and go through it with their children. Um, Listen, the work you're doing is so important. And viewers, please share this link with other families. Send it to your relatives. Send it to your educators so they can send it to their other students. Everything you're doing, which is for free, does nothing but make Mississippi kids brighter and better and stronger. And they're the core of our society. They're why we exist. So I commend you on your work.
thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me. We're going to have you back sometime soon, hopefully. Maybe we can talk about something besides COVID, but that you've made all this stuff available. Again, on behalf of Mississippi families, I say thank you.
Happy to, and thank you to parents and kids.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.